Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Well, I'm going to be sharing three amazing tools that all parents need in their behavior toolkits. Tonight, you are going to learn how to build listening and overall obedience without yelling, nagging, or threatening your child. So it's going to be awesome. I'm very excited to have you here. If you don't know me, my name is Stephanie Wicker. I'm a behavior consultant in Sydney, Australia, and an absolute lover of developmental psychology, neuroscience, and behavior analysis. I've been supporting families just like yours for the past 13 years, bringing a child-centered approach into my support packages. You're going to learn a lot about a child-centered approach in just a minute, so I'm not even going to go into detail because as soon as we start going through our solutions, you're going to be like, yep, I get it now. All right. So you can learn more about me at stephaniewicker.com. I hope you've set aside enough time for tonight. Stick with me and you are going to learn the top 3 reasons that children stop listening or don't listen to you. The next thing is you're going to see a brief overview of how children develop and learn their behavioral habits. I'm going to introduce 3 simple tools that all parents need in their toolkit. These will radically change your children's behavior at home, whether they're not listening to you, maybe they're being defiant, maybe they're very resistant, maybe they ignore you. These 3 tools are going to change all of that. So stay tuned. It's going to be great. All right. You're also going to learn how to begin building first-time listening and overall obedience without yelling, nagging, or threatening, and how to bring your best to parenting starting today. So let's get started. We're going to begin with why children stop listening or don't listen to you. So the top 3 reasons, according to behavior studies, number 1 reason is disconnect. How about you? How often have you found that when you feel disconnected with someone, maybe you're in an argument with your partner or your spouse, or maybe you've had a disagreement with someone at work, do you find that you're less likely to listen to them? You're less likely to take on board what they're saying? That's simply because you're disconnected. And when you're disconnected from someone, you're out of rapport with them, right? And you're no longer allies. This greatly decreases the chances of you listening to them. Okay, never mind if they're placing demands on you. They can't ask you to do anything right now. Like, I don't think so. We ain't friends, right? So disconnect is a big, big reason that children stop listening. Why do children become disconnected? I think that there's a lot of reasons, but I think that a big reason is because we get into the habit of telling them what to do. Rather than taking time to build that connection, like 60 to 70, even 80% of the time, we're like, go get your shoes. Did you brush your teeth? You need to eat your carrots and, have you made your bed? And don't forget to do your homework. And we're so busy telling them what to do that we forget that taking time to work on that connection is so incredibly important. There have been so many psychological studies that show us that if you want to build a relationship, whether it's an interpersonal relationship or whether it's obedience with your children, then you really want to be targeting a connection level of 80 to 20. So like 80% of the time or 4 out of 5 times, you need to be connecting with them rather than placing a demand. And then over time, you can fade that out. But initially, that connection should be incredibly strong. And you can see how much that is. 4 out of 5 times, you should be pairing with them and not telling them what to do. That's a lot. That's a lot of time spent sitting on the floor, talking to them, playing with them, no demands being placed whatsoever. That's a lot of time. Now, like I said, you can fade that out. As your child develops, as your child becomes more obedient, then you won't need that kind of a ratio. All right, so let's look at the second reason. The next reason is overwhelm. A child becomes very overwhelmed very quickly. Why is that? It's because their brains are developing so much. So when they go to school, think about all that's on their plate. They need to remain engaged. They need to recount the lessons. They need to complete tasks at the table or in the group. They need to be following group instructions. Everything, every part of their day is laid out for them, and they need to be following instructions the whole time. This can be very demanding on their brain and very demanding on their development. So they become very overwhelmed. Now, let's say that your child is under 4 years old and they're not in preschool yet. So maybe they're still going to daycare, or maybe you have them at home. They are still using their brain so much more than we are. When a child is on the playground, we think, oh, they're just having fun, no big deal. But in reality, that playground is their chemistry set. That is their biology lesson for the day. That's just how their brain is working. It's a little scientist in their head who is constantly soaking in information. So they can become very overwhelmed and very spent throughout the day. So what happens when a child is overwhelmed? What would that look like? Well, let me tell you, it looks like a child who's completely disinterested. All right. So this might be a child who's ignoring you. This might be a child who, as soon as you place a demand, they just kind of fall to the floor, or maybe they just walk away and act like they can't hear you. So they're completely disengaged, completely disinterested. And again, overwhelm is really going to decrease the likeliness of them listening the first time and being obedient. And it makes things just really, really difficult for everyone involved, because as soon as a child is not listening, we get frustrated, we get overwhelmed. Then we start to what? We start to introduce consequences that unfortunately just don't work. And children learn really quickly what consequences are coming. They know what you're going to do, because it's what you did last time, and the time before that, and the time before that. So they learn really quickly what those consequences are going to be. So if we're using ineffective consequences, such as bribing, threatening, overusing of punishment, not focusing on why these behaviors are happening, not building their skills, then what's going to happen is that child is going to stop listening. They're going to become completely dependent on a bribe or a threat. And that's the problem with bribes. That's the problem with threats, is you can't fade them out. You can't fade them out because you're not building their skills. So how do we build their skills so they do meet our expectation of first-time listening and overall obedience? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm about to tell you exactly what we can do. By now, you might be feeling a little bit like, oh, this is a lot of information, and oh, this is going to be really hard. It's not. This is super, super fun, simple stuff that seriously anyone can do. And it's effective whether you are a preschool teacher, an early childhood educator, or a parent at home with your kids. Either way, these are strategies and techniques that you are going to want to put in your toolkit right now and see the incredible difference once they become consistent. All right, so the first tool that I want to share with you is replacing no. Okay, I know what you're thinking. I don't mean that you're never going to say no again to your children. Of course not. You wouldn't be able to maintain that, right? That would be exhausting constantly. Anyway, children have to learn how to cope with no. Of course they do. However, what happens is when we say no a lot, when our fallback is no, simply because it's easier, children become resistant to us because it evokes the amygdala, it evokes the midbrain, which can then trigger the brainstem, which is the fight, flight, or freeze response. So children become very resistant very quickly to hearing no, not now, wait your turn. And health psychology, we refer to these as stressors in the brain. We all experience stressors, but as we develop, we learn skills that it takes to cope with these things: problem solving, reasoning, self-soothing, all of those things. However, with children, it's a lot harder. So you want to replace no. By replacing no, you are going to remain in rapport. You are completely avoiding that resistance. You're completely avoiding that the disconnection that comes so quickly when you say no to them. So that's the first thing, is we replace no. Now hang on, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. Just give me a second. Let's look at our second tool. Our second tool is placing a contingency called first then or when then. So if you watch some of my other videos, you'll know that I talk about when then all the time. This is an incredible strategy because it targets their motivation. You cannot control your child. You can't control anyone except for you. That's it, which means that your child needs to control their own behavior. So how do we help a child regulate their own behavior? If I can't control them, if I can't punish them and make them do what I want, because it's simply not possible, then what can I do? We can target their motivation, give them practice, give them gentle support, rather than trying to constantly dictate over them, because you're going to find that resistance is going to increase very quickly, and you're going to have a child who not only doesn't listen, but is defiant, aggressive, has tantrums at 4 and 5 years old, all of those things. When you try to coerce children into something, it's going to be met with counter coercion. So instead, we focus on a very simple strategy that evokes their motivation and gets them in line with what we need. So let me give you an example of how to replace no and introduce a contingency. Let's have a look. What have I got here? Okay. All right. So in this example, let's say that your kid is like, hey, can I watch TV? Instead of saying, no, it's homework time, or no, your room's a mess, of course you can't watch TV. That tends to be our response, doesn't it? I think a lot of the times it's because we have an emotional reaction to our children so often. We think that they're resistant and defiant because they don't like us, or because they want to get back at us, or because they want to annoy us. When in reality, it's not personal. Those kinds of behaviors, we cannot take them personally, because when we do, we become a mess and we can no longer support them. So I think that's one of the big reasons that we say no. Also, no is just easier. No is an easy answer. It doesn't require any additional steps on our part. If you say yes, then you have to think, okay, what's the motivation? What's the contingency? Or you have to think, what do I need to do? I need to pour the juice for her. I need to help her drink it. I need to walk with her to the couch. That's a lot of work. So I'm just going to say no. So there's a lot of reasons that we use no, isn't there? So first, we're going to replace no. We're going to put a little bit of hard work into this to make it really worth it really quickly. So we're going to introduce our first then contingency. So that might look like, hey, can I watch TV? And you're going to say, good idea. First, put your shoes away, then you can watch TV. And just like that, you've increased the likelihood of your child listening. So why? Why do you think they're more likely to listen? If you've been paying attention, you'll know the answer to this. The first reason is that you've avoided your stressor completely. You haven't said no, so they're not resistant to you. That means they're more open to any kind of reasoning or demands that you're about to place. And secondly, you targeted their motivation. You knew what they wanted. They wanted the TV, so you're using the TV to get your needs met as well. All right? So you're remaining in rapport while still placing your demands and following through with it. Okay? All right. So let's look at the number 3 tool. The third tool that I want to share with you is start simple. Simple demands first, and then you gently increase the challenge over time. So if you are at a birthday party and it's time to leave the birthday party, and you know that your son or daughter are going to have a very difficult time leaving because they are having so much fun, rather than bursting into the room and saying, go get your hat, it's time to go, which is going to be met, of course, with resistance. Of course, that's an immediate stressor, isn't it? So your child most likely will not listen, or will be defiant, or you'll get some talk back. You might even get a tantrum. Who knows what you're going to get? Instead of just placing a massive demand like that, we're going to start with something super simple. Now, a simple demand is a high probability demand. That means that the probability is really high that your child will do it. Let me give you an example of how to begin with a simple demand and work up to a harder one. Let's say it's time to clean the bedroom. All right. So we're going to place a simple demand first. Hey, can you show me your toy? That is super simple. Your toddler, your 3-year-old, your 4-year-old, your 5-year-old, they're going to want to show you their toy. Why? Because you're going to pair with them. That is so cool. I love that toy. And what's his name again? Oh, you are so clever with that. Beautiful. So now you're allies. Your child's smiling. He's showing off his toy to you. Completely, he's not resistant at all. He's completely in line with you right now, right? So you want to keep that going. You want to keep that connection strong. So can you place that toy in the blue box? Okay. Oh, that was awesome. High five. What good listening. That was great. And now you're ready. Your child's brain is stimulated in all the right places, and they're in a compliant state of thinking. So you can place the big one. Can you place all these toys in the blue box? Oh, wow. What an awesome listener. Thanks, buddy. That was amazing. And just like that, your child is happily cleaning their room. Okay, so that is how you place a simple demand before placing a very difficult demand, such as, all right, this room is a mess. You need to clean it up right now. Okay, all right, because we've all been there, right? Okay, so let's talk about putting these tools into action. So what do you think of my list? Are you ready to learn more? Are you ready to start applying these things and figuring out the nitty-gritty behind each of these tools? Because I got so much more to teach you. Then you want to join in on my membership. Right now, you get video trainings, live calls, access to my private client group where I am in there every single day answering questions, placing challenges, and we do weekly themed learning lessons. It's so much fun. Also, you get access to our free members area. Apart from all the training and the learning and the modules, you're going to get access into my members area where you get to see all of my old videos that are no longer accessible anywhere. Most of them are password protected because you can't find them anywhere anymore, but they're all in there. So you're going to find heaps of videos, heaps of PDFs, old ebooks, webinars, replays, all kinds of wonderful content accessible to you for absolutely free with your membership. So definitely check it out at stephaniewicker.com/become a member. Now let's get to what's important. What are you going to create? Oh my gosh. I get excited just thinking about this stuff because I've been doing this for so long that I can see the benefits that it has for families, and I can see them changing right before my eyes. And it's just the most remarkable experience for me, never mind for them. All right. So this is what you're going to create when you become a member and you work closely with me. You are going to have confident parenting. You are no longer going to be questioning yourself and doubting yourself and wondering, what do I do when, and what do I do when she does this, and what do I do if this happens, and what do I do if that happens, and what if these tools don't work? Nope. You are going to be so confident. All of those questions are going to be answered for you because you are going to know through and through everything that you need to know about your child's development, their personality, their behavior, their motivational drives, everything. It's completely individualized support. You're going to feel connected during your discipline. So you're no longer going to feel like the bad guy when you're using a punishment procedure. Because yes, I do teach punishment procedures, but they are evidence-based. They are not personal. They are child-centered. They're not about our needs. They're about their needs. You are going to have a very calm home. How amazing would that be? What kind of a difference would it make if your child listened the first time? What difference would it make if you knew that you could go to the shops without a tantrum, or you knew that while your child was at school that they enjoyed learning and they remained engaged and they had really healthy interpersonal relationship skills? Like, what kind of peace and calm would that provide for you, right? So you're going to create a consistent parenting approach in how to get your husband on board, your partner on board, your in-laws, your parents, anyone who is part of the raising of your child. You're going to have overall happier kids. We all know that when children behave better, life simply becomes better for everyone. You're going to have first-time listeners, children that love to learn and that are motivated by learning. You're going to have kids who are just obedient, excellent listeners that you are proud of, that you can show off, and your friends are going to be like, what? How did you do that? All of your parenting friends are going to want to know the secret to your success with your kids. You're going to have problem solvers, resourceful thinkers, children who are resilient and adaptive even in difficult circumstances, children who are emotionally confident, capable of building strong interpersonal relationships that show affection to one another. It's incredible what you can accomplish through behavior science and studies. All right, so how do you do all this? How could you possibly get all that? This is how, because I'm going to teach you the foundations of your child's development. Understand your child's ongoing developmental needs. Learn why children can be so unreasonable and so unpredictable all the time. And understand that behavior is not personal. It's natural. And what happens is you become empowered when you learn these things. When you understand that your child is not attacking you, when you understand that your child is not intentionally annoying you, guess what happens? You find clarity. You find calm in the moment, and you have confidence in what you're doing, because you no longer have this, he hates me and why won't he listen, right? You no longer have that because you understand their development. What's more than that is I teach you the principles behind behavior. Learn the purpose behind your child's most difficult behaviors. Define the motivational drive, because there is one. There is always a motivational drive behind everything that we say and do. Only then can you provide effective solutions and consequences. Only once you understand the foundations and you understand the principles can you truly introduce effective techniques. And this is the third thing that I offer. So I'm going to teach you child-centered solutions that build their skills, suited to the purpose behind their behavior, enhanced through their motivation. Remember how I said that you can't control your child? Their behavior has to come from within. Otherwise, they're not building any skills. So I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that, how to use their motivation without relying on bribing, how to use effective punishment without relying on threats, okay? It's all evidence-based. I think that's probably the best part of all, is there's no more guessing. There is no guessing going on. It is all driven through behavioral studies and psychological research, I should say. So it's completely evidence-based. Definitely check it out. It is absolutely incredible. And I think the best part right here is it's free for 30 days right now when you join. All right, so stephaniewicker.com/become a member. I would absolutely love to see you in there. So thank you so much for joining me for my 3 tools. I want to hear from you. What do you think about those 3 tools? Are you going to go use them today? Because I hope you do. You will see an immediate impact in your life when you do. All right, so thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you next time.